Alright everybody, welcome back to SketchCraft Live. I'm Rob Duenas, graphic artist Esquire, and we are doing commentary speed paint for the Batgirl Saucy. Joining me is Brandon, Let Heavy James. Brandon, say hi.
Hello.
Alright, so this is me watercoloring at 12 times sped up. It took like 3 or 4 hours, something like that. So what I've done is I've taken the pencils that or the inks that I drew before, printed them out low opacity, and had to trace over those using pen and nib with this waterproof ink. I didn't record at the time because I didn't know if it'd go well, so whatever. I recorded now, but at the time, so it looks like the same thing I just drew. You can't really tell the difference. So I'm going to be painting here with distress inks. This is like a form of watercolor that's concentrated. There's also polychromos inks, which is PH Martin's. Same thing, it's liquid watercolor. Now her hair I didn't actually draw, so you can faintly see it. That's the stuff I drew before, but I didn't re-ink it. I'm leaving the hair open. So as I paint, the hair will look more hairish and not, I don't know, metal.
It won't look so stiff. I think it'll look like it has a better flow and organicness to it.
Yeah, and organicness is the word. So since she has red hair, I'm sort of using this orange, fuck, I don't even remember the numbers now, man. They're all numbers now. I think this one's Spice Marmalade. And so I've taken that, which is a distress ink, Tim Holtz distress ink, and I've diluted it down so you get like a yellow. The coloring here is a little weird because the lighting in my room is a little weird. So, and then what I'm doing is I'm adding in the basic color on her body where shade would go. So I do a little lighting reference for myself, and then I fill in the shade with the colors that I want to paint with, leaving the highlights open. And then this way it allows me to sort of render the shapes a little bit more three-dimensionally than before. I think when I first started doing Saucy's, I was just running the paint through the drawing, and now I try to render out the shapes more while I still maintain those drips. And that's a fucking hard thing to do. Like,
right.
I've been doing this now for about 3 or 4 years, right? Yeah, something like that. And I'm still learning. Like, I don't, probably be another 10 years before I really get this shit down. But it is starting to look more like how I want it to look. So
it's a lot more controlled now.
Yeah, it's a lot more controlled and intentional, which means I have to slow down. So I think, when I was first doing this. Now, what I'm trying to do is pop the shapes out of her hair by adding darker versions of the color. It's really just more of the concentrated color towards the bottom of it, where there would be shading, and leaving the light parts open, which gives it the illusion of highlights. We call that contrast. It's contrast. It's paint starting light and going dark, as opposed to with the water, like oils or an opaque medium where you lay down a color and then build up on top.
Right. With watercolor, the more layers you add, the darker it gets, correct?
Yeah. And eventually it just turns to shit. So you gotta limit. You gotta limit. So the one thing I don't do is start with splatters. If you just start splatting shit all over the place, well, eventually you gotta paint the character, and guess what's gonna happen?
You're just gonna bleed in with the rest of it.
Yeah, you're gonna paint the splats out. Actually, see what I mean? Like because what happens when you wet the splats? They dilute, right? So.
Right.
The paper I'm using is Kansan Mixed Media art paper. It's pretty cheap. You get a nice 9 by. Yeah, and you can get it in a ream, a binder. That's what I get, and it holds the watercolor up. I don't use watercolor paper. The reason why is because I don't want it to reactivate. If I throw splats and drips on top of water, this stuff on watercolor paper, you know what's going to happen?
It's going to all mesh together.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the drips. It's all going to bleed together. So once this dries, it dries into the paper a bit. You can feather it out a little bit with water or something like that. It can soften edges, but it's not going to reactivate. And that's what I'm doing here. Like, I want that nice little blend on the edge of her yellow, so I just take some water and I just feather out the edges. And now I'm using a number 1. It's number 1 PH Martin's. I gotta get these numbers down. I'm still learning the number scheme.
Right.
You've seen I got a little bin with the.
And it is important, I've noticed, to keep track of the numbers and colors used in case you want to go back and do it again. I made the mistake of coloring some art and then wanting to duplicate it because someone said, I want one just like it. And I couldn't remember some of the numbers. So I definitely think it's very important to write it down if you're a newbie to coloring like I am.
I always write it down. I don't care if you're a newbie, but just write it down. The ink I use is a burnt sienna, so it has a little bit of color to it. So as you add water on top, it doesn't turn black. It turns a darker version of the color. If I just use black ink, when I put red over it, guess what's going to turn? Black, right? But if it adds a little bit of, color into it, semi-transparency or life, when you add red over it, you'll just get a darker version of the color. To a point. Eventually you'll get, what do you call that? Eventually you'll get black, no matter what you do, So. And now I'm just painting, letting it dry, and then taking the same exact color and going over the light version to create the contrast. So that light gray was that darker gray, just added water to dilute it.
That's one thing I like about watercolors is just, you can dilute them or use the same one in the same area and it just gives you something different instead of, having to blend other colors. But I like it. You ever accidentally paint outside your lines? Or are you pretty controlled with it?
I don't know. Guess. I don't think it matters because I drip the shit.
Yeah. No, I just meant let's say you're coloring her head, right? Have you ever accidentally gone outside of that?
Yeah, but it doesn't dry immediately. Just take a dry piece of paper towel and just push down on it straight up. Yeah, it'll come off. And then eventually, once it dries, it'll be so faint no one will notice.
What size brush do you use?
Start off with a number 6 or number 4 round, and then I work down to a number 2 and a liner brush. That's the liner. You see, number 2 round and a liner. The liner is longer. So I'll use it for drips and stuff like that. That's a number 2. You see right there, number 2 round.
And do they hold a lot of the watercolor, or do you have to dip it back in?
They hold enough. Yeah. And I use all student quality grade stuff, so cheap.
Right, so you don't have to buy the $40 brushes. You could just buy.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Is there anything you don't like about using watercolors, or is it pretty much a medium you love?
Well, I enjoy it. I don't consider myself very good at it. I wish I was one of these cats that when I did it, it was amazing, and you could win competitions or get fame and fortune. I don't know.
Right. When you say amazing, you mean to us, to people who are just novices, it looks good to us, but to you, you want it much, much better. You expect a lot more out of yourself than us going wow, that's amazing. You want
well, I don't pat myself on the back because I was able to do something.
Right.
I want to be able to do it at a level which So I got a long ways to go with this, folks. Some of these they're the long game, the long card. So it's just taking my time. Now I'm adding that spice marmalade as the shade over the yellow, since it's more saturated orange. You get the orangish shade.
I guess that kind of I don't want to say dirty look, but worn look to her yellowish cape. I always like the orange over the yellow. I think it just looks
better than using black.
Right.
You black, you just end up with shit gray.
Right, where people just right there they would have just filled it all in with black or some kind of cross hatching or.
Yeah, with these sauces, I want vibrancy. They didn't have them before; they were really dark. And I want these really intense vibrancies, and I want the shapes to be a little bit more rounded, and I want the drips. So I'm asking a lot of the medium, and you'll come to find that a lot of people, when they do drips, it's just like a giant eyeball. They're not doing it with insanely detailed characters. I mean, I'm drawing at the same level of detail I would if this were going to be colored digitally. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
normally not the case, you know? And when people do draw at this level of detail and use watercolors, they generally just make everything look really nice and clean, and, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, it is, I'm not gonna say I invented it, but it is a look that I can't go to. I don't know, maybe I have, because I don't know anyone else. You know?
Right.
And then when I go to cons, people are like, that guy draws like you. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. You know, like, and they're like, I don't. I'm like, it's not the drips. It's not it at all, you know? It's
Right.
not even that. It's, there's something different about it, and I haven't. Yeah. So right there, I didn't like the way her eye filled in, and so I dabbed it with the dry paper towel, and then redid it. And that's because I wanted this teal green color she has, and I had to make it, and it was hit or miss on how that was working out. Where are we at here? 11. So we're almost halfway through the process. Takes a lot more time, folks. This is sped up 12 times.
Right. So this is, what, 4 hours?
Yeah, I don't tape the paper down while I work either. I found it's irrelevant. Now here I start the drips, because it's all dry. And then I use the more saturated version of the color, almost with no water added to it. And
So saturated means
pure.
Pure. Okay.
Yeah. And then when you do that, it looks, you can see the contrast. You know, the trick is to make certain that they don't look like they're bleeding or vomiting over themselves. It's a trick. Just want to
Make
look
it somewhere they follow the muscles and the.
Yeah, I found don't do the drips on the face. It looks like they got hit in the head. That's true. And then when I want a little bit more contrast, I'll add some black into the color. So it's easier to see in the final art. There's only so much the camera can capture. Put it that way. I need a lot of resolution. I'm adding a little bit of splats there. Then going around the edge and trying to add darker versions of it just to add contrast, core shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to add just enough. I did this Daredevil one that was more messier, and some asshole I know put a fucking meme up. My anus is bleeding. I was like, thanks. Really appreciate that. You know? Really appreciate it, dickweed. I mean, look, you can't please everyone. I just don't need my friends
Right.
goofing on me.
No, I mean, I like the splatter coming off her knees. It's almost like it adds to the motion of her.
So now I got this, that spice marmalade, and its purest form is almost a rust. No, I think it's rusty hinge, actually. That's it. Yeah, it's rusty hinge.
I like that.
Which is this rusty hinge color. Like
Which is cool.
And so when you put that over the spice marmalade, it sort of blends into this, you know, rust-colored rainbow. I guess I want somewhere between, you know, I don't know, man, grungy Batman stuff and colorful, poppy 80s cartoons. You know?
Right.
Still trying to find this look here. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this soon, folks. You know, just I've had other stuff I have to go get to. And this piece is big. It's a full 11 by 17. You know.
I'm sure they were happy with it.
Oh no, this was for the Kickstarter, but it wasn't a commission, so I have the art.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
My birthday's coming up.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No, I wouldn't want this I wouldn't want this one for my birthday. But anyways,
it's a lot of the same stuff. So here I'm just trying to see if I add a little bit of that streaks coming off her cape, if it can add motion.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a question of how much is too much, you know. And I'm trying to pop out her hair white. Well, yeah, and then I add a little bit of drips back there, but I don't want it coming off her head. It's tough. I'm just practicing how much can I add. See, I'm like, it's a little bit, but I gotta be careful it doesn't go on her skin. It's tough. It's easier with characters like Batman because they're always in the rain.
right.
When it's characters like, say, I don't know.
Captain America, Spider-Man.
It's Jim and the Holograms. You know, maybe Street Fighter. Yeah.
Care Bears.
Yeah, tougher with those kinds of characters. Now I'm adding the black along the edges, and it's just contrast, folks. You put darker colors next to brighter colors, and it makes the brighter colors look, you know, brighter.
Pops out shapes.
Yeah, I call this popping out shapes. And some people have said, well, I like the old way too, Rob. And I'm like, great, you can do it, because I'm not going back. Not interested.
Yeah, this right here just pushes and pulls the shapes more. I like it.
Doesn't work for every property, you know, so I think I got a bunch of Batman characters. Yeah, turtles. Might be interesting with something like Transformers, but I have to be careful on the level of detail I put on that, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Works with Metal Gear. Metal Gear looks cool. Doesn't work with Final Fantasy. That I know for a fact. As you paint eyeballs, you have to deal with them having that dead look until you can add the highlights. It's tough. I have to sit there and I hate looking at it. So now I'm using pure Rusty Hinge just to push that back a little further. So the same colors with less water, just add more, you know. You don't need, I need a dark red and a semi-light dark red and a semi-light dark red and a light red. You know, you don't need 8 colors.
Right.
With watercolor, you just, you know,
This is maybe what for?
Remember, these are in a bottle, so they're already wet. You're just diluting them, which I like.
You just dab a little bit into a palette?
Yeah, that's right there. That's the little palette you see on the left.
Oh, okay.
And we're talking drops. Like one dab, like 1 drop to like 4 drops of water, vice versa. So I got these little formulas I come up with. I know when I was first starting, one of the backers, it was Johnny, was like, you know, you used to just go for it. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I don't know these colors, man. Like, I'm not just gonna go for this. You know, like this shit's
Right.
hard. Like yeah. So that's where I split the video up in 2. I was like, I gotta add this little background. I don't know why, but I was intent on trying to add this background. So here we go. Now I'm going to use a thicker brush, so number 6.
Are you glad you added the background, or?
Yeah, we'll tie them all together. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they look cool, you know.
Yeah.
I hate almost everything I do, man. So I can't. I'm not the best. You know.
This is true.
I'm like the worst. I'm the meanest person when it comes to my art. I'm like, believe me. And it's not like, oh, I'll just give myself some faux compliments, you know? Like, I only see what I failed to do, you know? Which is why I've tried to say, you know, if you come up with one thing. So here, my thing was to just render the shapes out, keep the color vibrancy up, you know? And then I'll get towards... I think out of all the ones, I like the way I mean, she came out nice, you know? But I guess, I don't know. The Nightwing is cool. There's that one. But I haven't made that one yet where I'm like, oh, yeah. At this point, it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But you just have to let the shit dry. This is what sucks. You gotta sit here waiting for it to dry.
Those blues on the Nightwing were pretty badass, though.
Yeah.
Like, very vibrant. Like, in person. Like...
Yeah, these never translate well over the internet. Like whatever this looks like now, folks, you haven't seen it. Like,
so if you happen to see us at a con, usually Arizona or Vegas, come up and check out the portfolio. Rob will have them on him, and you could see these in person, and they are pretty wicked. Now, is that the same purple that you used on her outfit?
Yeah, same exact one. Which is a P.H. Martin's, I don't know what color. I don't have all those memorized yet. Though they're all written down somewhere. If you have any questions, folks, you can always ask me. I'll type them in the comments.
How long do you think the background strip took you? Maybe a half hour?
If that. I was mostly waiting for it to dry. I always wonder, like, how much of this is necessary? If I just painted this whole thing in black and white, then I could have used Photoshop to color it. No, we gotta do it this way. This is also why I rushed through the drawing on the background, because once you add all these paints, it's irrelevant, you know?
Right.
Now I'm trying to mix... I'm mixing Rusty Hinge in with that purple. It's a nice watercolor technique, where it's all wet, and then you sort of damp it up, and then you throw water on there, and you let the colors mix together to create, I don't know, cool slosh. That's my masking technique. It's called cover with your hand. Right?
That's
where
some,
you just
that's
cover,
some high-class stuff.
Yeah. It's where you just, you know, you take the hit.
This is that college education putting to work, right?
Uh-huh. Well, because they're splatters, it doesn't have to be perfect, so, you know. I'm throwing a little black on top just to pop that out. And that purple with Rusty Hinge looks cool, right?
Mm-hmm. Gives a nice gritty, dirty look. Which, how Gotham should look.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm filling in the little white areas with some color pencil. So it's got a little yellow tint. I've tried mixing paint into this, but it doesn't work. So folks, color pencil's your friend. They can do some wondrous little things with that. See, it just tints that yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I tried putting paint on that, and it does not work. Now I'm using Polychromos color pencils there, which I really like. Better than Prisms. There,
Oh, yeah.
tinted. And now we're going to go add white highlights. Oh, she's not so dead now. What do you think?
Right. As you say, to the eyes, the dead eyes.
I'm using white calligraphy ink for this process and my liner brush. Trying not to fuck it up. Wasn't at my peak sauciness, if that's a word. Also, I'm trying to make certain that where it gets really dark behind her, I don't just pop everything out. I'm just trying to pop certain areas where like the light would kind of hit to pop the shapes out. I used to outline every little fucking thing.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Just trying to use it to pop shapes out and add a little bit more depth, you know.
I really like the seam line on her side rib area. It really looks like it's 3D sunken in. Like it just, the white and the dark pop perfectly on it. Like that's probably my favorite part of the piece.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like if you know if you're making a 3D, I mean a 2D thing look almost 3D, that's well done.
A little bit white highlights in the background. There, I just fill it in these little cappies. Just pour the ink right in those little cappies. So I don't risk pouring the whole bottle over my fucking art. Which can't happen. Alright, so we're about to wrap this up. Brandon, you have any other questions? Anything you want to add?
No, I think I've been pretty...
You think you did your job?
I think I did good. I think I did good on this one. I did my diligence.
I think I did my... Yeah. There you go, signature. Alright, everybody, leave comments below. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. You can join me again soon. I'll be doing more Saucy's live. So
please follow, please share, please tell a friend.
Yep. And, oh, look at that. Look, that's a little technique I'm using now, too. Look at that. It's ballpoint pen. You can go right around the edges of the drips and pop them out using a ballpoint pen. Look at that. But you cannot paint over it because they're not waterproof. So once you go that route, you're fucking stuck. So, that's it. All right, everybody.